Another day, another story. Called the greatest American battle of the war by Winston Churchill, the Battle of the Bulge in the Ardennes region of Belgium was Adolf Hitler's last major offensive in World War II against the Western Front. Hitler's aim was to split the Allies in their drive toward Germany. Welcome to Tabo Eminent channel. The German troops' failure to divide Britain, France and America with the Ardennes offensive paved the way to victory for the Allies. Lasting 6 brutal weeks, from December 16, 1944, to January 25, 1945, the assault, also called the Battle of the Ardennes, took place during frigid weather conditions, with some 30 German divisions attacking battle-fatigued American troops across 85 miles of the densely wooded Ardennes forest. As the Germans drove into the Ardennes, the Allied line took on the appearance of a large bulge, giving rise to the battle's name. The battle proved to be the costliest ever fought by the US Army, which suffered over 1 lakh casualties. The formerly serene, wooded region of Ardennes was hacked into chaos by fighting as the Americans dug in against the German advance at Street With, Elsenborn Ridge, Houffalize and, later, Bastogne, which was defended by the 101st Airborne Division. Did you ever see land when a tornadoes come through? Did you ever see trees and stuff, twisted and broken off? The whole friggin' forest was like that, said US Army Charlie Sanderson in My Father's War, Memories from Our Honored World War II Soldiers. The surprise German attack broke through the front on day 1 as stories quickly spread of massacred soldiers and civilians, according to the US Army Center of Military History. For those who had lived through 1940, the picture was all too familiar. Belgian townspeople put away their Allied flags and brought out their swastikas, the center writes. Police in Paris enforced an all-night curfew. British veterans waited nervously to see how the Americans would react to a full-scale German offensive, and British generals quietly acted to safeguard the Meuse River's crossings. Even American civilians, who had thought final victory was near, were sobered by the Nazi onslaught. The Battle of the Bulge, also known as the Ardennes Counteroffensive, was a major World War II battle that took place from December 16, 1944, to January 25, 1945. It was the last major German offensive campaign on the Western Front during the war. The battle occurred in the Ardennes region of Wallonia in Belgium and Luxembourg. The Germans launched a surprise attack against the Allied forces, aiming to split the Allied forces, encircle and destroy several Allied units, and capture the vital Belgian port city of Antwerp. The Germans amassed about 450,000 soldiers and nearly 1,500 tanks and assault guns for this offensive, making it one of the largest battles on the Western Front. Initially, the Germans made significant progress, creating a bulge in the Allied front lines, which gave the battle its name. However, the Allies, primarily American forces, managed to regroup and counter the German offensive. Harsh winter weather, combined with determined resistance from the Allies, slowed down the German advance. The Allies received crucial air support from the 9th Air Force and the Royal Air Force, which hampered German movements and supply lines. The battle resulted in heavy casualties on both sides, with estimates varying but generally indicating around 19,000 to 25,000 American soldiers killed, making it one of the deadliest battles for US forces during World War II. German casualties were even higher, with estimates ranging from 67,000 to 1 lakh. By late January 1945, the Allies had successfully repelled the German offensive and regained the lost ground. The Battle of the Bulge significantly depleted German resources, both in terms of manpower and equipment, hastening the end of the war in Europe. It also showcased the determination and resilience of the Allied forces in the face of a surprise attack. Troops faced severe cold. Hitler's mid-December timing of the attack, one of the bloodiest of the war, was strategic, as freezing rain, thick fog, deep snow drifts and record-breaking low temperatures brutalized the American troops. More than 15,000 cold injuries, trench foot, pneumonia, frostbite, were reported that winter. I was from Buffalo. I thought I knew cold, Baseball Hall of Famer and World War II veteran Warren Spahn said in The Love of Baseball. But I didn't really know cold until the Battle of the Bulge. Nazis sent in imposters and changed road signs. Another Nazi strategy was to attempt to infiltrate the Allied troops. Veteran Vernon Brantley, a private first class in the 289th Regiment, told the Fort Jackson leader in 2009 that his unit had just arrived in Germany from France when they were told to load up and return to Luxembourg. We got word that the Germans had dropped a lot of paratroopers behind our lines, and that they were dressed like American soldiers and spoke English, he said. They were there to create confusion. The Germans also changed road signs and spread misinformation. The Nazis were carefully groomed for their dangerous mission, Life magazine reported in 1945. They spoke excellent English and their slang had been tuned up by close association with American prisoners of war in German camps. Under the rules of the Hague Convention, these Germans were classifiable as spies and subject to an immediate court-martial by a military tribunal. After brief deliberation, American officers found them guilty and ordered the usual penalty for spies, death by firing squad. To stop infiltrators, the US troops would ask suspected Germans to answer American trivia questions. 3 times I was ordered to prove my identity, General Omar Bradley recalled, according to the Washington Post. The first time by identifying Springfield as the capital of Illinois, the second by locating the guard between the center and the tackle on a line of scrimmage, the third time by naming the then current spouse of a blonde named Betty Grable. Allied Air Forces arrived on Christmas Day. It wasn't until Christmas Day that the weather conditions finally cleared, allowing Allied Air Forces to strike. It was on that bright, clear and cold Christmas morning in 1944 that the ground froze solid, Brantley told the leader. The tanks and air forces could finally maneuver and get assistance to all of us who were previously blocked off. It was a welcome sign to see the sun come up. It meant that we were alive for one more day. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Supreme Allied Commander, and Lieutenant General George S. Patton Jr. led the American defense to restore the front. According to the National Archives' bloodiest battle, Eisenhower gave Patton the Third Army, about 230,000 soldiers, and ordered him to head to the Ardennes. 101st Airborne Division arrived in Bastogne. In the small, pivotal Belgian town of Bastogne, the Germans surrounded thousands of Allied troops. Eisenhower, in response, sent in more units, including the famed 101st Airborne Division. When the Germans sent a message demanding the surrender of the 101st on December 22, they got a one-word response from its commander, Brig. General Anthony McAuliffe Nuts. The bloodiest battle states. This was interpreted by German officers as a more colorful and negative response to their demand. The day after Christmas, units of Patton's rapidly approaching Third Army finally arrived, broke through the German lines, and rescued the troops. Claiming victory of the battle on January 25, 1945, and the Allies headed for Berlin. The war ended less than 5 months later with Germany's May 7 surrender. In all, according to the US Department of Defense, 1 million plus Allied troops, including some 5 lakh Americans, fought in the Battle of the Bulge, with approximately 19,000 soldiers killed in action, 47,500 wounded and 23,000 plus missing. About 1 lakh Germans were killed, wounded or captured. The Ardennes campaign of 1944-45 was only one in a series of difficult engagements in the battle for Europe, wrote John S. D. Eisenhower, in his 1969 book, The Bitter Woods. Nevertheless, it can be said that the Ardennes campaign epitomized them all. For it was here that American and German combat soldiers met in the decisive struggle that broke the back of the Nazi war machine. Echoes of the Bulge. In the heart of the Ardennes forest, amidst the biting cold and swirling snowflakes, Lieutenant Catherine Turner, a skilled nurse from the U.S. Army Medical Corps, found herself tending to wounded soldiers in a makeshift field hospital. The atmosphere was tense, filled with the constant echo of distant artillery fire and the muffled cries of the injured. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow across the snowy landscape, Catherine noticed a young German soldier, barely more than a boy, brought in by American medics. His name was Karl, a conscript who had been swept into the horrors of war. Despite the language barrier, Catherine sensed fear and desperation in his eyes. As Catherine worked to treat Karl's wounds, she discovered he was not much older than her younger brother back home. Their interaction transcended words. It was a silent understanding between two souls caught in the crossfire of a devastating conflict. She saw the humanity beneath his uniform, the same humanity that connected them all, regardless of nationality. Over the following days, Catherine and Karl forged an unlikely bond. He shared stories of his hometown in Germany, of dreams that didn't involve war, and Catherine shared tales of her family and the life waiting for her after the war. In those quiet moments between battles, they found solace in each other's company, reminding themselves of the world beyond the war-torn forests. One night, as the snow fell softly outside, Karl revealed a hidden cache of letters from his pocket, written by his younger sister, Elsa. Through tear-filled eyes, he asked Catherine to read them aloud, translating the words of love and longing from his sister who hoped for his safe return. Inspired by the letters, Catherine and Karl hatched a plan. They would find a way to convey a message of peace, a plea for an end to the senseless bloodshed. Risking their own safety, they drafted a letter together, penned in both English and German, appealing to the soldiers on both sides to recognize their shared humanity and put down their weapons. In the midst of a ceaseless battle, Catherine and Karl, carrying the letter between them, emerged from the cover of the trees, walking slowly toward the enemy lines, their hands raised in a sign of peace. Miraculously, both sides held their fire, intrigued by this unexpected display of bravery. With trembling hands, Catherine read the letter aloud, her voice carrying across the snowy expanse. Soldiers on both sides listened, their faces reflecting a mix of emotions, doubt, hope, and ultimately, understanding. The ceaseless gunfire fell silent, replaced by a profound stillness that settled over the battlefield. While the war did not end that day, the courageous act of Catherine and Karl planted a seed of peace amidst the chaos. Their story, known as the Echoes of the Bulge, spread among the soldiers, reminding them that even in the darkest of times, compassion and connection could bridge the divides of war. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.